Well, this is gonna be like Spotify Wrapped, but there's no music and nobody asked for it. So it's nothing like Spotify Wrapped, really. Well, welcome and hello and welcome. This is my yearly wrap-up video to end 2022. So I'm quickly going to go over the things I read in December, and then maybe a few things I plan on reading in January. And then I'm going to go into my top 10 books of the year, which is actually a top 10-11. Top 10-11? No, top 11. So top 11 books, including my book of the year. So that is the plan for the video. Let's see how it goes. So like I said, I'm going to quickly wrap up December. It was a very slow month again, much like November was. I only finished 3 books this month. Those would be Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky, and then the final 2 books in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, The Two Towers and The Return of the King by Tolkien. I think I gave all those books 4 stars out of 5. Crime and Punishment was an interesting one. I do quite like Dostoevsky's writing. I think I mentioned that before. I don't know. Very psychologically based ideas, interesting concepts. He has some really endearing characters, and this was my first full-length novel for him. Before this, I'd only read short stories and his, novellas. So it was interesting to see how he carried the story for a long form. It was quite good. It was a little bit slow, especially in the middle, but I did quite enjoy it. It's a very thoughtful book, very philosophically based with some of the ideas that are in it. I feel like the story has provided templates for a lot of anti-hero crime stories or movies or TV shows that have come since. I was recently finishing up Better Call Saul, season 6, and I couldn't help but notice some similarities between the show and Crime and Punishment. I'm not going to go into any details on that, other than I did see some similarities between the two. Okay, anyways, the other ones were Lord of the Rings. These are also very good. A little bit slow at points. I'd say most of the time it was very slow, but there were some great moments in some of the chapters. Obviously, the world that he created was very much alive in many ways. It's very in depth. He poured a lot of time into creating languages and different races and things like that. So, a very rich story in terms of the lore. It's a very good story too. Very classic good versus evil tale. I quite enjoyed that. I quite enjoyed the characters as well. I do think I like the movies more than the books, but I need to revisit the movies again just to make sure, for research purposes. Anyways, that's Lord of the Rings. Very good. Probably not going to be my favorite fantasy series of all time, but definitely worth a read, and probably going to be rereading them at some point, probably on audio. I think that'd be a good way to go about it. And then as for what I am currently reading, my plan was to start with The Count of Monte Cristo after I finished Lord of the Rings, and I have done that, and I'm about 300 pages in. I really like it so far. I did see the movie years ago, so I vaguely remember some things that happened, but that's okay. I've forgotten a lot too. And it's a very good book, a very engaging book, a very accessible classic book. So if you're looking to get into a classic that won't be a headache to read, I think this would be a good choice for you, even though it is quite hefty. It is 1,200 pages, I believe, or something around there. So I'm only a fraction into it. at 300 pages. Anyways, but I do quite enjoy that. And then recently I started my next one, which is Doom a Key by Stephen King. It's one of the books I've been looking forward to the most from him. It's about a person who goes down to Florida to paint stuff after an accident. I haven't gotten very far into it yet, so I can't say more than that. As if I would anyways. I don't think I'll finish either of those by the end of December. So those are good books. That's what I'm currently reading. As for what I will be reading in January, after I finish up either both of them, or maybe after I finish Doom a Key, depending on how much longer I have left in count after that. I may double up, or I might finish that first. I don't know yet. Anyways, the next one I'm going to start is going to be Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. I recently watched Black Sails, and so I've been kind of in the mood to read Treasure Island, and I want to do that before it kind of escapes my mind. So I'm going to be doing that in January. Beyond that, I may dip into something more recent or contemporary before I start with another classic. Then I also want to get into some fantasy series, so I may start with one of those too. Just depends on where I'm at and how long it takes me to get through these next couple. So we shall see where that goes. So that is December. So now to the real meat of the video. This is going to be my top 10, but no, not yet. I want to wrap up the year first. So just quickly taking a look back at 2022, it was quite a different year. I had never intended to have read 59 books this year. Before 2022, my high was like 12, but I really did dive into reading in a big time this year, in a big way this year. Getting very obsessed with a lot of books and reading a lot more consistently, and sometimes faster, sometimes not. But staying engaged in the books that I'm reading and the books that I want to get to has helped me to keep on track for the entire year. So that's good. I also started this channel back in April or something. Never would have guessed I would be starting a YouTube channel in 2022 either. But here we are. So that's been good as well. I haven't learned a lot or gotten a lot better, but I've gotten a little better, so that's good. Yeah, just a weird year. Ended up reading Lord of the Rings and Crime and Punishment and The Dark Tower and a whole bunch of stuff I never would have guessed for the year. So I'm glad for that. And hopefully next year can be even better. Not just with reading, but with different aspects of life too. Anyways, that's getting a little off topic. So let's get into the real meat of the video now, the top 10 list of the year, which I said earlier is going to be a top 11. I did want to do a top 10, but then I wanted to limit myself to one entry per author. But then I had 3 Stephen King books on here. One was from a series, so that I can forgive that one. Then I had 2 standalones, and I just couldn't decide on which one I wanted to use, so I got 11. I'm not going to include any rereads on this list. If I had included rereads, it would be very likely that To Kill a Mockingbird would be in the top 5, if not the top 1. So that was a very good book, obviously, but I had read it before, so it doesn't appear on this list. So what does appear on the list is number 11, which is On the Road by Jack Kerouac. This was my first foray into Jack Kerouac or even the Beat Writers' work, and I did quite enjoy it. The plot was very basic. It's just people driving across the country and just hanging around, but it's written in a really nice way. Very engaging prose, very engaging characters and dialogue. It's a very interesting read. I'd say if I had a stronger year of hits, then this probably wouldn't have made the list. But as 2022 was more about getting back on track and kind of building a foundation of things that building a foundation of books that I've read and stuff like that. This makes no sense. What was I talking about? On the road, yeah. It probably wouldn't make the list any other year, but it's kind of a weird year, so it does make the number 11 on this year's list. So then number 10, it's probably another one that would not make the list in a stronger year. But I did quite like it for what it was. That is Ghost Story by Peter Straub. It's a horror novel. It's very engaging as well. It has a unique and very well-structured plot. It has an interesting cast of characters. It has some really spooky moments as well. Some really nicely well-done chapters that are full of the frights and full of horror and full of tense moments. It is good. Pretty good book. I would recommend it. It is quite long. But I liked it. Anyways, that's number 10. At number 9, I have the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I'm going to include all 3 books in one entry here, because I know they're supposed to be one book or whatever. And they all seem like they are the same book, so it works as just one. If I did have to pick a favorite of the 3, it'd probably be Fellowship. I think that one just ended the strongest of the 3. Like I said earlier, it's a good trilogy. Classic trilogy, one of the best, if not the best fantasy series of all time. Well worth a read. It has some very interesting prose and some unique characters. Not always the most engaging of books, but very good. Number 8 is The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury. And to be honest here, I could have slipped in any Ray Bradbury book that I've read this year, whether that would be Fahrenheit 451 or Something Wicked This Way Comes, or this one, or Dandelion Wine. I think that all work here. I like them very similarly. I think I'd like The Martian Chronicles barely by the best because it has the most balance between prose and story. I think the short chapter story format works well here, allows him to delve into his ideas in the way he wants and then move on to something else. I did a review of this book way back when my channel was a lot goofier than it is now. Anyways, I don't know what else to say. Number 7. Number 7 is Pet Sematary by Stephen King. This is one of those standalones that I couldn't decide on. And I did quite like Pet Sematary. I thought it was very well structured, well paced, had some good characters, great themes, a lot of disturbing moments, a very dark story, great ending. But I've seen the movie before, the original movie, so I knew the basic plot. So nothing was really a surprise for me in the book, which may have been a disadvantage in terms of my enjoying it. Well, I wouldn't say enjoying it, because I did enjoy it quite a lot. I didn't have an emotional investment in the book, though. I don't really have any strong feelings towards it, as I've come to realize. I think it's a very good book, maybe one of his best. We'll see. But I don't really have a lot else to say about it. It didn't affect me profoundly in any deep way. Time will tell how this one holds up for me. Coming in at number 6 is The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. This is one of the great American novels, and to be honest, I think this one is a better novel than the great American novel, which is The Great Gatsby, which I also read this year, and as you have noticed, is not on the list yet. It won't be. I think this one is a lot better. It's a lot more fleshed out, a lot more relatable, a lot better in terms of relatable characters, stronger narrative. I did quite enjoy this book. It's got a very nice writing style, very engaging, very vibrant writing. The characters really come alive. I didn't care for all of the main messages of the book, per se, and some of the things near the end was not a fan of. But overall, I think it's a very good book. I think it's one that is worth reading, especially if you're into American classics. I do want to get more into Steinbeck. Definitely want to get into East of Eden in the early months of 2023. Number 5, we're breaking into the top 5 here, is Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I mentioned this book earlier, so there's not a lot else to add here. Very good book. Yes, number 5. Number 4 is Life of Pi by Jan Martel. This is another one that I did a review of way back when, in April. It's a very strong book. This is also another book that I had seen the movie of beforehand, so I knew the plot. There wasn't a lot here that was a surprise to me, although it is a little more fleshed out in terms of the religion aspects, and it talks more about the animals and the zoology of it all. A really good book. I think the ending is very well done as well. If you haven't read it, I think I would recommend you read it. If you haven't seen the movie yet, I would definitely recommend either or. We can do either one, really. I think the movie is obviously very, very gorgeous to look at, so that might be a reason to watch it first. I don't know. Or you could read the book first. I don't really know what I'm talking about. Anyways, that's number 4. Number 3 is another Stephen King book, Dolores Claiborne. This one I had a lot more fun with than I had with Pet Sematary. It was a very quick read, a very engaging and thrilling read. I think I finished it in 2 or 3 days. I had not seen the movie beforehand, so I didn't know what to expect from this one. And I was very pleasantly surprised, as it was not one that I would have expected to have liked so much. But here it is at number 3 on my top 10 list, so very pleasant surprise, great character, unique premise, very well paced as well. Really good book. Really recommend reading Dolores Claiborne. I think it's very underrated in terms of Stephen King's work, so go ahead and give that one a shot if you haven't. And then doubling up, number 2 is also a Stephen King book. This is The Wastelands, The Dark Tower, number 3. I read all of The Dark Tower this year. Technically, I did start it a couple years ago, but I did go back and reread book number 1 this year, so technically I did read all of it this year. So, no lies on that one. The Wastelands is my favorite of the series. I think it's the most fun, the most fast-paced, even though it's not even all that fast-paced. I think it's got a lot of interesting new characters, some good villains, a lot of great quotes, a lot of good literary references littered throughout the book. Just an all-around really good story. My favorite of the series, and my second best book of 2022. That leaves only one book left, which was really not going to change, as this is the book I had the most emotional investment in throughout the entire year. That is White Fang by Jack London. I read this earlier on in probably February or March, and I don't think it was ever topped in terms of my favorite book of the year. So obviously it's about a wolf dog who is born in the wild and slowly comes into the domain of men and learns to adjust to different things in life. It's very similar to The Call of the Wild. It's kind of the opposite trajectory of the plot in that one. I think I do like White Fang more than The Call of the Wild, though. I think it has I just like it a whole lot better. I think it has a really good ending. It's got some really dark moments and some really fun moments. I think it's the favorite parts for me were just the moments where White Fang was just learning to adapt to different things in life, whether that be living in the wild or dealing with men or understanding their intentions or things like that. Just a really nice journey. One I had the most emotional investment in for me throughout the year. I don't know what else to say really about this book. It's good. I like it. that's my number one. So that's really all I have to mention today. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you had a good reading year as well. Yeah, that's all I have. So see you in 2023, and thank you for watching. 2022. My shirt's really wrinkly. Oh my god. Oh no.